Mr. Connolly is here from the Planning Board.
Right. I think most of you know it's been my privilege to serve the township for 18 years this
Excuse me,
spring
could I have
as a
your
member of the
name
Planning Board.
and address?
Bill Connolly, 3 Timcack Lane. I wish I had $1 for every time I ask somebody to do that, but I forget it myself. I really want to address the affordable housing aspect. Obviously, there's more than one component to this plan, and some parts of it have upsides and some parts of it have downsides. In a way, at least if anybody cares about the future of this township, the affordable, and I know everybody does, the affordable housing part of it just has to be dealt with. I'm going to make some assumptions because, like everybody, I have no idea why we're at this point. All I know is what I've read in a couple of letters to the editor in the newspaper. But I think that the purpose of the petition was to defeat the SOAR idea, at least the SOAR idea in its current form. It really wasn't to give me a vote on $37 worth of my $14,000 tax bill. I don't really need that. If I could have a vote on the rest of it, that might be helpful. But to be able to vote on this tiny little piece of the taxes is really of not that great significance, but defeating the current proposal probably was what was going on. It also appears that the objective was not to defeat affordable housing. If you read what I've read in the newspapers, I think people were almost surprised that there's a connection between defeating the SOAR plan and affordable housing. But there's a very strong connection. Our affordable housing plans at this point in time are an absolute shambles. We don't have a chance. 18 years of work on affordable housing plans in this township that were mainly designed, I mean, we care about affordable housing, but we mainly care about protecting the character and the quality of the life of the township as it has been, and that means protecting it from the builder's remedy. Those efforts, if we can't find a workaround, as you've talked about, Mr. Mayor, those efforts are gone, shot, destroyed. Because there can be no affordable housing on any significant scale without sewers. And we're not going to have sewers, so fully half of our affordable housing plan is shot and gone as a result of the defeat of this plan. And I'm not saying this plan deserves to win, but I'm saying there has to be a plan that provides sewers, at least for our affordable housing obligation, and I think, Mr. Mayor, that's at least part of what you were driving at. But we don't even have an affordable housing number yet. Have we heard that before? That isn't true. That isn't so. It reflects what, to my mind, is an appalling ignorance of the affordable housing issue. The third number, round numbers, exist. We have it. Netted out against housing we've provided in the past, our number is 419. Now, and it exists. About 200 of them would have been supported by this SOAR proposal. That's where I get the idea that fully half is gone and can't be brought back unless we can find the alternative that the mayor talked about. It's true, the state implementation of that number has been delayed by 2 rounds of litigation brought by those who want higher numbers. The fact that they have won 2 victories in court and have thrown the state implementation of these numbers into chaos doesn't mean there is no number, nor does it mean, and I have to beg to differ with Steve on this, that it's going down. That number is going nowhere but up. The purpose of the litigation that's been brought against the state that has stayed the implementation of their plans and our plans for 6 or 7 years now, it's being brought by people who feel that number is way too low. And I can tell you that number is way too low on a state basis. I didn't just roll off the turnip truck on this issue, as I'm sure many of you know. I'm not just a guy standing on a street corner with an opinion. It was also my privilege to serve in the state government in the administrations of 9 consecutive governors as Director of Housing and Development and Director of Codes and Standards, and be intimately involved with the affordable housing issue at the state level across all of those years. The original philosophy, the Mount Laurel to decision, and the way, the builder's remedy, and the way inclusionary zoning were based on a publication cited by the Supreme Court that was produced by my division in 1978. The original allocation method for the round one and the round two allocation to municipalities of these numbers was developed by my staff before COA existed and was handed over to COA at that time. There were 6 people that sat around Governor Tom Kaine's desk and finalized New Jersey's Fair Housing Act back in the 1980s, and I was one of those 6 people. I wrote the original draft of the current third round rules, the development share approach. And I was very much aware of, I didn't pick the numbers, but I was very much aware of the development of them, and I know that the Department of Community Affairs did everything it could to drive those numbers down, and that's everything philosophically that it could do to try to find ways to call the numbers smaller than it might otherwise be, and that's why all this litigation has ensued, because the affordable housing advocates in the state want to see much higher numbers, and there can be no end to all of this litigation, but numbers that are higher, not lower. And we can't afford to give away or lose half of our affordable housing plan, and that's where we are if we simply have this referendum and forget about it. We have to find some way to salvage the wreckage of the affordable housing plan. I was personally very encouraged by your comments that you want to try to find that. I was also very encouraged by Mr. Keska's comments that maybe there is a way, because I really think that everyone who has brought us to this position, both the Township Committee and all of the people who worked for the referendum, need to try to pick up the pieces of the wreckage and at least put our affordable housing program back together. Because if we don't, and I care very much about affordable housing, and for me it's a good thing on its own. But in addition to that, if we don't, we're talking about 2,500 units of privately developed housing in order to bring this many units, 400 or 500 units, into the township by the developer inclusionary zoning method. And don't worry about those guys getting sewers, because they will. Because there's a lot of money to be made about on 2,500 homes. Our zoning ordinances won't be able to stop them, and our strategy of not having any sewers won't be able to stop them either. Did we provide sewers for Merrill Lynch? Certainly not. Merrill Lynch and Bristol Myers before them went and negotiated a contract on their own. And that is what will happen to us. We will be overrun with new development through the builder's remedy if we can't salvage our affordable housing plan. We have worked for long and hard in this township to make sure that that doesn't happen, because that's the end of the quality of life that we all value in this municipality. And I urge you to find a way to put it back together. Find some money from somewhere else, a smaller bond issue. Address the very legitimate concerns about the business owners and the total amount of the gallonage. But we can't just have a vote and walk away happy, because we won't be happy. We will have destroyed Hopewell Township as we know it if we don't find a way to pick up the mess that's been created by these twin actions, the ordinance that nobody liked and the petition that could result in a referendum that will end our affordable housing efforts. I mean, some people have been critical of putting a hold on what's going on in Pennytown. I mean, I think the Pennytown redevelopment project was a wonderful idea. But quite honestly, if we can't have a whole affordable housing plan, there really isn't any point in spending a penny on affordable housing at all, because in this case, a half of an affordable housing plan is not better than no affordable housing plan. Thank you very much.